Board of Supervisors, if you'd please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any, we'll do roll call first.
Here.
Here. Here. Are there any agenda deletions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 1, which is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to move the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item number 2, which is claims. Any questions about the claims? Thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item number 3. Let's see, hold on. Gotta get my papers here. A lot of paper. Okay, item number 3 is to consider approval of contract 91-C091-140 bridge replacement. Good morning.
Good morning. This is for a bridge replacement on 180th south of G76. It's been in our 5-year plan. We had 3 bidders, and the low bidder was AM Coron and Son at $714,396.60, or 59, depending on where you look on that. But our engineer estimate was 800,000, so bids are starting to actually settle down on the bridge side. They're still much higher than they were 5 years ago, but they seem to have stopped their exponential growth, so that's a positive sign. So this was well under our estimate. And we would recommend awarding the project to AM Coron and Son.
In the amount of,
What is that?
$714,396.60.
is that correct?
Yeah, I gotta look to see what I actually have on the, yep, that is correct.
Okay. Any questions?
Have we done business with this? Do you know this company?
I have never worked with Coron, but they are a very large bridge contractor. We typically get Herbert Construction because they get the low bid, but they generally get the low bid because they're right here in Warren County.
Did they bid on this?
They did. They were the second place bidder. They were 25,000 more than Coron. And Gaverson Smith came in third. So, I mean, we haven't worked with them. Brian thinks he's worked with them once in the past, but there's nothing wrong with this company. So.
Okay, you've done a good job of
They've been around for a long time, and they typically do the much larger projects. But I think things are getting tight out there in the market, and they're just kind of gobbling up whatever they can, so.
Well, I know we've got a couple other bridges that are going to be coming due this next year, so hopefully that makes it possible for us to have
Hopefully the prices stay reasonable.
A little bit more competitive bid.
Yeah, this is the first bridge project that we've gotten more than one bidder on in the last few bridges, so.
Oh, that's good.
It's a positive sign for our prices at least, so.
Good. Okay, is there a motion here to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve AM Coron and Sons Incorporated as the supplier on the bridge, on this bridge in this referenced, in the amount of $714,396.60. That's my motion.
Do you want to amend that motion just slightly to include the resolution verbiage as presented in our packet?
Yes, I'd like to include the resolution that's in our packet as a reference.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're on to vacating the road of 215th Avenue south of Estlin. You going to stay up there?
This is for us, once we get
Great.
once we get into the public hearing.
Okay, are we ready to do that?
Make a motion, go into public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Second, we're in public hearing regarding the road vacation of 215th Avenue south of Estlin Street. Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Oh, we need roll call.
Oh, excuse me, roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry about that, thank you.
It's okay.
Is there anybody that'd like to speak on this?
Okay, so we were actually contacted by the landowners that are on the end of that dead-end road. They requested that we vacate the roadway, and we had them do the legwork and talk to the other adjoining landowner that has access from Elthon Street, and they both signed a petition for vacation, so that's why we're here today. The landowners want it. It is not a through street. It is essentially just a long driveway right now that we maintain. We actually can't find any road record for the road, but we've been treating it like a road for a long, long time, so we just want to vacate it officially, so even though we can't find the road record, now there's record that it is not our road, so everybody's on board with it, and everybody's been notified. We have the signed petition, so we would recommend not having the second and third public hearing and going ahead and vacating the roadway.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to step forward regarding this? Seeing and hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we are on the issue of vacating the public road here. Do I have a motion to vacate the road as presented in our packet with the resolution? And also, do you want to consider waiving the second and third readings?
I'll make a motion to vacate 215th Avenue south of Elthon Street. And I'd also include in my motion to waive the second and third reading.
Okay, so are you referencing the resolution that's in our packet?
And I'd like to reference the resolution that's in our packet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have vacated that road. Okay. On to item number 5, consideration of the Warren County Sheriff's MOU to change the jailer's hours with possible action.
I would apologize to the board. I just haven't had a chance to get to this yet. I would ask that we table it till the 19th, which is our next regular meeting.
Okay, is there an objection to tabling?
No.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, we will table this. The item number 6 is discussion regarding the Blue Flag Marsh Agreement with possible action.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
Good morning.
So recently, the city of Norwalk ended up annexing one of the Warren County Conservation Board properties that we manage. And so we've been since working with the city of Norwalk to kind of figure out, and Don Bowman, to figure out an objective moving forward for how we manage this property in light of the annexation, because it's now going to be within the city boundaries. So it could be subjected to city ordinances. So this 28E was presented at our October meeting. There was no action taken by the Conservation Board. They tabled it, and then the chair of the Conservation Board called to order a special meeting to address the 28E, in which the agreement was signed by the Warren County Conservation Board unanimously. What essentially the 28E does is protects the right of hunting on the property and the policies that the Conservation Board has already put in place. Do you have any questions on this agreement? There is a signature side for the Warren County Board of Supervisors.
Since we do have Norwalk folks here, I'd like to just hear from them also.
Sure.
If that's possible, if you guys
We
would
got
be
lucky
willing
you
to
were
step
here.
forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Zach really deserves the kudos of recognizing, I think there was, when we were talking to you about your action on approval of the annexation process, Zach had noticed this going through the process, and he reached out. And I see the agreement a little bit more general, this agreement that we're working on, of just making sure that these folks are at the table with the city, all of our conservation efforts along North River, which I think are going to grow to be a lot more. More specifically, yes, hunting was probably top of the list, but to me, the agreement does a little bit more than that, of really making sure that these folks are at the table with the city and vice versa. Already, our chief of police, he came forward and identified, even before Zach came forward and mentioned, hey, we're going to have public hunting ground in this area. We're going to want to consider revising ordinances in the future to even accommodate that. So at no step do I think that there's any issues with that. I've had no feedback from our elected officials either. So I think we're full speed ahead.
Great.
Any questions for me?
None for
Awesome.
me.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach anymore?
I'm on the next set, so I'll just kind of hang out.
Okay. Is there any additional conversation or discussion regarding the proposed MOU?
No questions, no concerns.
Then I would ask for a motion here.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the Blue Flag Marsh Agreement as outlined in the packet.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Zach. You might as well come back up, because I think we're going to consider the resolution to fund the Warren County Conservation Board's land acquisition. So if you'd like to explain what this is all about, and give a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this year, the Conservation Board approached the Board of Supervisors for partnership and financial assistance in pursuing the land acquisition adjacent to Woodland Mounds State Preserve. There is 154 acres that is going to cost us $105,000. The Conservation Board has a first option to purchase agreement signed with the landowners. In order to pursue the purchase of this property, the Conservation Board applied for a Resource Enhancement and Protection Grant, and the department was awarded $495,000 grant. So in part due to our partnerships, our fundraising, and the grant application, and assistance from the Board of Supervisors, we have the full funding available to purchase this property, but it needs an assistance from the Board of Supervisors in terms of the timeline to accomplish this successfully, based on the first option to purchase agreement, which closes at the end of December. Does that answer your questions?
Yep.
Okay.
That does. Board members, any questions or additional conversation? I just want to, first of all, we've talked about this in our work session, but I don't know we've really done it here in a more public setting. I really want to congratulate you and the board and for your efforts to go forward and get this put together. This is a significant activity here in the county. And to be able to, not only, you're being a little humble, I think, in terms of the receipt of these funds. Just for the public, would you tell exactly how significant this grant is and what it took and where it placed amongst all the grants for the state of Iowa?
I'll do my best. Thank you, Mark. So the Resource Enhancement and Protection Grant is a full funding opportunity mechanism at the state level that is a grant funded by the sale of gambling funds and also the sales of license plates. And so on an annual basis, they open up the opportunity for municipalities, cities, and counties to pursue this funding source to try to get 100% full funding. Ultimately, you don't need matching funds, but it drastically helps within the committee perception and how it gets scored. This round, there were 10 applicants totaling about $3 million. Warren County's application scored number 1. And of the funding pool available, there was about $900,000 available, and we were awarded about half of that, so $495,000. So it is an incredibly competitive, very prestigious grant. There's a high demand. There's usually not a lot of money to go around. So we're incredibly fortunate and thankful that we were selected as the #1 grant in the state. So.
And then would you talk just a little bit about what the significance of this particular site is and how it relates to other things that are happening next to it?
Absolutely. So Woodland Mounds State Preserve first of all, it hosts very unique archaeological locations that have Indian burial mounds on it. And the property that we are purchasing is right next to it that encompasses the entire eastern boundary. And those Indian burial mounds are 50 feet away from the property that we are acquiring. So archaeologically, it's an incredibly unique resource to protect from a cultural standpoint for Warren County. The other aspect is there were scientific surveys of the species compositions, the vegetation compositions, and there's about 269 known cataloged species based on the data that were collected from the studies back in the early, I think 2008 was like the last publication. So culturally, it's incredibly rare. The ecology is very sensitive and incredibly diverse. So this is actually a really huge win for our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything anybody else wants to add here?
No, just
I
great
think,
job.
board members, just so that we can make sure we're all on the same page here, the request is basically to approve the conservation's plan to fund and purchase the Gilbert Edition for $805,000. Our commitment from the Board of Supervisors specifically is $154,000. But in essence, what he's asking is that we would upfront the monies to help advance. We'd basically advance the full amount, and then as the grant monies become available, then the county would be reimbursed for those extra funds. So as we're making a motion here to move forward with this, I want to make sure everybody understands that. And would someone like to make that motion? Otherwise, yeah.
Make a motion on behalf of Warren County to approve the Warren County Conservation Plan to fund the purchase of the Gilbert Edition, in part with a grant from the state REAP Open Spaces Program. And I'll make this motion based on the resolution that is in our packet.
You want to include the dollar amount there, the total dollar amount, and the amount the county is specifically, we as supervisors have approved otherwise.
Our commitment on behalf of Warren County is $154,000.
And the total project will be 805.
Correct, 805, as is in our packet.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very, very much for bringing this forward, and congratulations again to you and to the Conservation Board for your proactive work on this project. It's very significant.
It's been great. I appreciate the support, everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I think when, just going back and thinking a little bit about when you first brought this to our attention, and I say I think you're being a little humble in terms of the significance of this. At the time that you brought this to the board's attention, the competition for these funds is really stiff. And to be listed as the #1 top priority project for these funds really speaks highly to the work that you and the board have done, you and the Conservation Board. So thank you very, very much. Okay, next item here is to consider and approve ARPA-funded projects. We have a listing of targeted, we had talked about these in our work session. And so now we have them in a priority list with an estimated dollar cost over to the side. These would be projects that would be funded from the ARPA. So Zach, you want to talk us through this?
Yeah, so in previous meetings, we had discussed talking about putting the administrative improvements on hold, and in that to reallocate the ARPA funds that were being dedicated to that project. And so we ended up having a work session to prioritize some of those projects, and this is that list that we prioritized out. Number one on that list we put was the chiller, which is the estimated cost is about $700,000. And then following that, I prioritized other projects that we are already in the process of doing or have discussed doing, prioritizing them down in order. Is there any questions on that list that I made or why I prioritized things the way I did?
Are they prioritized like 1 through 8 on our list relative to importance?
So the reason why I prioritize them in that way is because several of these were projects that we were going to have to get budget amendments for. And by using the ARPA funds, we won't have to do budget amendments for them. And the last two, which are the paying off the balance of the Board of Supervisors renovation and the Board of Supervisors furniture, we discussed in previous meetings that would go out of the account for the administration improvements. And so those have already been, in a way, budgeted. And it would just prevent us from having to do several additional budget amendments.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in essence, the list here goes up, looks like close to $1 million total. And I believe, what do we have, about 800,000?
Correct.
That's
And-
remaining in the ARPA funds. And so I understand where you're coming from on this. Are there any questions about this? In essence, I assume we'd start clicking them off then
Yes.
and so as the chiller estimate comes in, whatever that might be, it may be lower than that, and then we've got adequate amount of projects here to fill up that gappage. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's what you're doing. Okay. Is there any question about?
Well, so the total ARPA money that we have left over, that we're,
About 800,000.
so, okay, so basically what we're deciding today, or what the discussion is, the ARPA money, the remaining ARPA money that we have is going to go to these projects.
Exactly, in this
Okay.
order.
And, okay,
And because as the chiller, we don't know if the chiller is going to come in totally at $700,000. It could come at 500 or 600, whatever. But with this list, which is, I think is a good way to do it, we end up having more projects listed than what probably are going to be able to fund it by ARPA specifically.
Yeah, because we, the last two for the Board of Supervisors, they're actually gonna get, were they in today's claims? They're gonna get paid out of the admin fund.
I didn't have them in there. They'll be in next, they'll be in the next.
No, okay, next time, okay. So, right now, they're set to be paid out of, the actual admin fund that we put aside. Because, like you said, the actual costs add up to more than the 800,000 that we have left. If they're going in the next claims, we could change that to be ARPA, but I think from the sounds of your last conversation, your number one priority was the chiller replacement. And like he said, that estimate went up quite a bit from where we started.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Any more questions, board?
well, the seventh item listed the Board of Supervisors renovation. Why is that? That's something that we're doing, that we're spending money on, so that'd be up on the priority list, correct?
The reason why I put that lower on the list is because we had already decided where we were gonna pull the funds for that out of that administrative improvements
Okay,
list.
okay.
That 1.2 million that we set aside
Right.
for the admin building.
Right.
Those are currently set to just come out of that fund instead of ARPA.
And as I understand what you're saying, then in essence, we've already got those budgetarily covered. However, if we would need to spend ARPA dollars, again, aboard because of the time restriction on those things, that can become an item that could be funded by ARPA, or at least in part by ARPA.
It could be funded by ARPA, but we're already gonna be paying for it, like in 2 weeks.
I have, the next installment is about $85,000. We would have 1/3 more, like one more bill that they'll send us.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody okay? Mm-hmm. Let's then take action on this. Somebody willing to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion to utilize our existing ARPA funds that need to be allocated by the end of this year, of this calendar year. I would like to make a motion that the projects listed in our packet are funded by the ARPA money that we have remaining,
As prioritized.
as prioritized.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now we're going to consider approval for fiscal year 2024 cash annual financial report with possible action. So Megan.
Hello, so this is a report, obviously, that's done annually, and it just goes to the state, and it'll get published in the paper. Just, there's a publication notice, not the whole report. And it just goes over all of our figures for the previous fiscal year. So I'll just kind of quickly go over the first page. That's kind of an overview of the whole report, and then the report actually breaks things down into service areas. We kind of more at the county look at things by department, where the state looks at things by this function or service area. So the first page is kind of nice because it shows our actual totals as well as our budgeted totals. So if you kind of scan down to where we have the bold subtotal of revenues, and then on the right, if you look under the actual totals, our revenues were over 34 million, where they were budgeted at 33 million. So that's of course good that it was higher. And then if you scan down to the total of subtotal expenditures, we were almost at 38 million, where we were budgeted at almost 42. Looking a couple lines down from that for your changes in fund balances. So this is your total fund balances for the county, not just like general. It would be like our ARPA fund, capital projects, everything. We had actually budgeted to go down about 8 million and ended up going down 3.3 million. So obviously that is also positive. And that last line there shows you our total ending fund balance for all of our funds is a little over $21 million, where we had budgeted at $17 million. So we did end up better than where we had budgeted by quite a bit. And then if you look at general special revenue, general includes not just our general basic. This would be like general basic, general supplemental, any sub-funds, so like nutrition's under the general title, that admin building fund we discussed. Different funds like that also go under the general. But yep, you can just kind of see an overview here, and then like I said, the following pages break it down more by the details that like the state cares about by their service areas. So once you approve, I'll submit the publication notice to the paper to get printed next week. And then before this month is over, you'll have the GAAP AFR, which deals with accruals, which I get information from the state auditor's office for. That one does not get published, but I will bring it to the board as soon as the state auditor has their information ready for me to submit.
Are there any questions, board?
It's a great report.
Yeah, it is. It looks good.
And this report is actually kind of fun. It's like a puzzle. And when all the pieces come together, it's good.
Well, Megan, you've done a really good job helping us out to keep us on track and to keep us informed. So this is just a verification of what's actually happened here. And frankly, the whole, if you look at all of our departments and all of our folks here at the county, they've worked hard, worked as a group to make sure that we're doing things in the right way. So this is great. Any questions, further questions about the report? And filing it. Do we need to formally take action to file this, or what do we need to do? Or do we just approve it and then you just submit it?
You approve it, I think there's a resolution in
Yeah,
your
got it right
packet.
here. I can read it if you want.
Oh, yeah, that first page, that's got it, okay.
I'll make a motion that the Warren County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the cash annual financial report pursuant to Iowa Code 331.403 for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Motion?
Second.
We've got a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Megan.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick note on the next item, I think it should be compensation board instead of commission.
Okay, yes. We'll make that addition there. On the next item, item number 10, we are going to formally work with the applications, or actually the appointments to the compensation board. And this would be the one that we had discussed about whether or not we wanted to have a reconstitution of the compensation board, which would set salaries for the elected officials here in the county. And at our work session, we had basically indicated, yes, we felt that was important to do. So that's why this is here today. We should have 2 appointments that we are making as a board of supervisors. I don't see those.
What are you looking for, this?
Sure. Yeah, no. Well, okay, maybe I've got it there and I just didn't see it. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, okay, never mind. Papers were sticking together. So in essence here, you see the listing of the elected officials down the left side, and then you would see the appointment name that would basically represent each of those elected officials. We have received notice now from all of the elected officials and who they are suggesting to be appointed to this compensation board. And the ones that we as a board of supervisors need to basically officially decide on is John Niemeyer and Katie Stout. Those were people that have served on the board and they are presently, or they were on the old board, and basically we'd be reappointing them to be representatives from the Board of Supervisors. So that would be the, I guess we could go ahead, let me see, from a technical standpoint. Dawn, do we need to separately appoint the representatives from the, for the Board of Supervisors and then approve the entire list? Or how should we do this?
I think you should appoint, you should do 2 separate resolutions.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So I would put it to the board here. Why don't we look at our 2 appointments first?
Okay.
And if somebody would be willing to make that motion, then we can approve that motion, and then we'll approve the whole board after, as a second motion.
Okay. I'll make the motion to approve John Niemeyer and Katie Stout as Board of Supervisor representatives on the compensation board for 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the friendly amendment here is to make sure we have the proper title on the, I guess it should be Compensation Board, not Compensation Commission. So we can make that adjustment there. Now let's make the other motion here to deal with appointing the Compensation Board members as now submitted by all the elected officials. Somebody want to make that motion?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the candidates' names listed in our packet per each elected official.
Okay.
Do you want me to read them out?
Why don't you go ahead and just do them? Yeah.
Okay. For the attorney, Doug Eichholz, Nick Sarda will be his representative. For the recorder, Jordan Hill, Lorene Cosimo will be the representative for the treasurer. Andrea Semple. Kevin Halterman will be the representative. For the auditor, Kim Sheets. Kathy Micah will be her representative. And for our sheriff, Joe Carrico, Julie Viscasel will be his representative.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Board. Okay, continuing on with this appointments. Now we have consideration of a Civil Service Commission appointment with possible action. We have a couple of individuals that have been suggested for that, and I believe we just have one appointment we need to make to that board. So we basically would need to choose if we want to go from these appointments that have been submitted, or otherwise name somebody, or we can table this all together. But my understanding is that we are needing to fill the vacancy that's on this Civil Service Commission. So let's have some open discussion here about the two candidates. Is there any particular leaning one way or the other?
I just went out and recruited Kip Finley, as out of a need that we needed to recruit somebody to serve on this commission. We've had a need for this for quite a while. We've been pressed to do this. That's the only reason why I went out and recruited somebody to do this job. If there's somebody else that somebody feels can do this job better or is a stronger candidate, then I'm all ears. You know, I don't really have a dog in this fight relative. I just want the best candidate possible to do this job. And I know my person well. So Kip has got an extensive law enforcement background. He's ran a business. I would consider him a leader in our community. So, and I don't know anything about Michael Rowe. So if there's a board member here that, you know, has some thoughts on this.
I really don't know either of the candidates.
Okay.
But the one that came to my attention was Michael Rowe, and that was brought to my attention by Sheriff Carrico, in particular as an individual brought forth. Again, I do not have a strong opinion one way or the other. And if we want to table this, we could table it, but then it just delays filling the position that much longer.
I prefer just to vote, you know, or get somebody assigned, you know, because I know this is pressing and that this has to be done before the sheriff can do his job.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking just simply because the sheriff brought that person forward, I would be in support of them.
Okay.
So,
I think I would move, I'll just take it, I'll be bold here. I'm going to move that we appoint Michael Rowe to the position of Civil Service Board. If somebody would like to second that.
second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Okay, now we have consideration of ARPA grant amendment for Norwalk. So you want to come forward here?
Sure. Jim Doherty is our city attorney, and we've been working with Dawn on this as well, so they may have additional comments. I'll just real briefly summarize. First of all, it was an outstanding action by you folks to utilize those ARPA funds in a way that you're doing, spurring some additional economic development in the county. And if you didn't have a chance to look at the numbers, I'm going to tell you about those briefly, that has worked out quite well already. So thank you for doing that. I know a lot of counties chose to spend those ARPA dollars in different ways. I tell you that the $1.4 million that you are planning to grant to us is going to open up a significant amount of light industrial and commercial development area that will ultimately yield a lot of payback for the county in the future. So when you awarded those grant funds, it was during the presentation we talked about establishing a certified site, which great, go through that process, everything was working out well. In fact, working out so well that we had what's called Project West come in, and they're looking at over 300 acres of land. And they asked the city to just go ahead and cease that certified site process because their requirements, the due diligence they go through, is more intensive than what we could even accomplish through the certified site. So in our process to stand down and follow their guidance, you may recall at one of the updates I gave to you, this came up. And kudos to Dawn for catching that and saying, now wait a second, we had certified site in that grant award, maybe we should clean that up just so there's no hiccups with the federal government. So that's really what this entails, is a resolution essentially removing the word certified site and being a little bit more general and saying we're doing this to pursue light industrial and commercial growth in the city, which benefits the county. So going back to the production, or what that's doing for you in terms of return on investment, our previous estimates of the county revenue, so this would be through your protected levy and the development that has occurred in that area, previous estimates were around $85,000. Our current estimates, with some of the expansions and current plans that we know of projects that exist today, is closer to about $133,000. The protected, or once the TIF dollars sunset, that amount goes to about $840,000 a year. That's annually additional revenue that would come into the county.
Wonderful.
So some very positive numbers just to show you the investment that you're making, that's rolling back quickly to offset. And we did go into a little bit of detail on that third page in case you want to see where those numbers came from. Are there any questions? Jim, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think it's good.
Dawn?
Thank you.
What did Dawn say?
She didn't have anything?
Dawn?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
You did a very good job of just owning why we needed to be here today.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding here what we're doing, the resolution that we have in the packet, I think that's one that we're updating, or is it?
Correct. It is a resolution to amend the subaward agreement between
Got it.
you, the county, and us as the city.
Okay. Is there a motion to, or any more questions first, excuse? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the amended resolution as presented here in our packet?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do you have a second?
Yeah, second.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. What a great partnership.
Okay, we are now up to item number 13, which includes receiving and filing reports. And this would be for Veterans Affairs and also Kyakota, or Kyakota.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pronounce it? Is it Kaya? Kaya?
Yeah, it said Kaya. But I've
Kaya?
heard it pronounced-
Kyakota?
I've heard it pronounced 3 different ways and spelled 7 different ways. So you're not the only confusion here.
All right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to receive and file Veterans Affairs and Kyakota.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye. Okay, now we are up to supervisor reports. Anybody wish to go first?
I don't have anything today.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I will just say that I participated this last week on the North Middle River Watershed Authority. And there's a lot of activity that's frankly starting to happen there. They've been continuing to get past what I call the planning or development stage of that particular entity. And in fact, Mr. Doherty, who was here from the city of Norwalk, was actually at the meeting. And I believe in the future here, they'll be having more to report because of the, let's face it, what we just talked about with that whole agreement and putting things in, it all goes together here. And it's, I think, a very positive thing that's going on. The other thing I'd like to do is congratulate all the folks that did the elections this last week. Kim Sheets, thank you very much for you and your folks here. It was nice to have a well-run election process here, and I'd like to congratulate all the new board members, including Supervisor McIntyre here, and so that whole board will be coming forward. I believe, Michaela, are we going to be putting together a orientation for the new board?
I'll reach out to the newly voted.
Okay, so that's the one thing that I think will be real positive here, is that we'll help the new board get acclimated with a gathering here. So with Michaela's leadership and help, and the other folks here at the county will help bring that new board on and hopefully have a very positive experience going forward, helping them get started. With that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who puts their name on the ballot to be considered, and I think that that's a good thing, and I'm glad that we were able to get it accomplished. So, excellent. As we move on here, any comments from the public? We do allow 3 minutes per individual. No comments. Okay, we'll move on. The upcoming meetings, we do have several meetings next week. And part of it's because of requirements regarding the canvassing of the election. And so we'll have a workshop on the 12th. Then we'll have a special meeting on the 13th to actually canvass the election. And then there will be a special public meeting on the 14th. And that's to deal with, it's public hearing actually. It's to deal with the, because of the project, I believe it's the chiller project, that it's because of its size, it requires a public hearing to actually approve that. Mm-hmm. Okay? And if there's nothing else, no other dates. Board, I will say this, and we can talk more about this when we get together our work session, but in December, I only anticipate us having 2 meetings and probably no workshops, because there's no reason for us to be doing a lot of stuff, because the new board will actually be taking up all those issues. So I think from our perspective, probably next week's going to be our last set of work sessions. Okay. And then for the year, and then we'll have our 2 regular meetings in December to basically do pro forma work that we have to do every time, you know, claims and all that sort of thing. So I think we're winding down quickly for at least this calendar year, what's going to happen, and look forward to a new board coming on.
Yeah, it's going to be good change, good exciting change.
Yep.
For the county.
Looking forward to all that. Okay, item number 17, I think I just talked about, yeah, there will be the next official board meeting will be the 19th of November. Just so everybody knows, I will not be here. I will be out in an ocean someplace. And so I am not going to be available that day. If there's nothing more, I'm going to move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Snell?
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.